an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering One Piece, episodes 190 and 191. In these episodes, we are still not done with Eneru by the end of these two. I didn't really expect it, but I thought, like, well, maybe. How very foolish of me. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha. Thank you very much to Gabriela for commissioning this episode. So these two episodes, I will be honest, I'm going to be going through them as I do usually, with the screen going on so that I can reference everything. Maybe there will be more than I expect, but I don't feel like there's a lot to talk about in these two episodes, because we just get a lot of rehashing of a history we already know about. And it takes, like, every character, it feels like, has to separately reiterate the thing that we already know what happened. And that takes up like 30% of what these are. I'm a little bit surprised, like, and I'm not trying to criticize you guys at all, but I am surprised that this wasn't a 3-episode chunk, because 2 episodes, I genuinely am kind of like, I don't know how to make an hour out of this, kids. I probably will be able to, because a bitch does not shut up, but it isn't going to feel like I'm, necessarily always going to be on plot points, because there's not a lot. So we start off the episode, as I sort of had mentioned, Eneru looking at his handiwork, and all of our friends who are still down on the clouds are trying to figure out what they should do next. And the fact that the explosions happened the way that they did, and how, like, brutal it all was, has got Luffy really flipped out and constantly trying to get them out of here, because, as he puts it, did you see, like, how that lightning came down like rain? Guys, we are not going to survive up here. And as much as I understand that the show's whole thing is we've got to be brave and let's do the right thing, I'm hardcore Team Usopp on this one. Sometimes Usopp gets a little over anxious about something that's really not a big deal, or he will panic about something that I'm like, come on, man, give them 2 more seconds for an explanation and you'll be fine. But then there's times like this where I'm like, Usopp is the only smart one in the group. It's like, it sort of goes between him and Nami, and every now and then Zoro, but Zoro's only claim to, like, being reasonable is the fact that he's constantly annoyed, which to my mind is a really reasonable way to be. And otherwise, his logic and whatnot, we haven't really even seen him contribute all that much in that sense. But Seraphim says, yeah, this is one of the worst types of episode padding the anime does, but there is a reason for not doing 3. Okay. So I'm probably like, the next one's the rhythm. Okay, that makes sense. So this is when we get Viper talking to them about, like, wait, did I hear you say that he's going after a golden bell? And then he's asking about the exact location, because there's, like, a legend about it and everything. And I do have to register something that, this is, every time that I do one of these asides, guys, it is not to say the writers should have done this differently necessarily, because it's a kid's show and it's fine. It's just one of those, like, little things that you think about and you're like, huh. And that is to say, Robin found this lost civilization, like, really, really quickly, this homeland. And the fact that they have been there as long as they have, and they've never seemed to, like, stumble on the ruins of their homeland, is shocking. The bell is in a different place, as we find out. So them not knowing where the bell is, that makes total sense. But I don't get the impression that they're aware of the location of these ruins. And maybe they are, and they just treat them with reverence, and that's why they stay away from them. But it seemed pretty much like abandoned. So anyway, Viper Reel is like, oh shit, it's at the top of the vine? How do you know that? And he finally decides that he is going to go, basically, I'll be damned if Eneru has that thing. That's a piece of our history and our heritage. One of the only things that we've really got left, because he actually destroys the ruins. Like, those are gone. So this would be one of the only things that they had left. And, I am not mad at him for that. The thing that kind of falls flat for me in these two episodes is the motivation behind Luffy wanting to get to the top now. The situation is so dire with trying to evacuate everybody that after having lost the way that he has, Nami is basically like, dude, you're not going to be able to fight him. If you want gold, you've got a bunch of gold on your arm. Just take that. She says his life is more valuable than gold, and I really was waiting for a little acknowledgement within the dialogue of her going, I can't believe I'm saying this, because you know how she is with gold. And they didn't do that, and I was genuinely kind of surprised. But he wants to get up to the top to ring it so as to let Old Timer know that the bell really exists and it's in the sky. That's why they can't find it. So that he knows that his ancestor was not a liar. And it's just, I think part of it comes from the wild sound that they decided to give the bell. Because I will stand by the fact that if I heard that noise, a bell is not even close to the first thing that I would think that was. So the idea that if you ring it, he's going to immediately know what it is, already for me is full of holes, because that shit sounded terrifying. And I feel like if I were on the ground and I heard that sound, I would just be like, so it's the end of times now. That's what I'm getting from this. However, setting that aside, let's say it totally worked. I don't know why they can't just go back and tell him, hey, we found the whole lost city. Here's a Shandoran. They will tell you the history of the legend of their leader in Noland. And he's just absolutely set on ringing the bell being the only way. And everybody around him is also going, good for him. And I get that this is just a silly, like, we just need this to be the thing that he has to do for reasons. But it just feels, I want more people to at least be arguing with him about it. You know, I want there to be, and they can't, because then the show has integrated an argument against itself that you have to make Luffy just completely ignore what they say to have him keep going. But honestly, Luffy ignores what they say and how people advise him all the time. So that might even be in character, the way you wrote it, you know. Let's see. Jessica says, I haven't watched them yet, and I just saw that I can't increase the speed on Crunchyroll. Oh, you normally will watch it at like a faster speed? That's interesting. There was such a controversy about that, Jessica. I might have mentioned this on the show, but Jesse Thorne, who's the head of like the Max Fun network, podcast network, he posted a tweet that blew up a couple years ago. Somebody mentioned that they listened to one of the shows on his network at like 1.5 speed. And Jesse got so mad and like retweeted it and said something about how what we make is our art and you're changing the way that it's intended to be consumed. And he was like so intense about it. And I would understand that feeling maybe more if I did like a scripted show, you know, and then I had maybe sound effects or story beats. Like if you listen to the unspooled episodes for patrons and you listen to those sped up, that would fuck them up. And I'd kind of be like, you're ruining it. Why are you doing that? But from where I'm sitting, it just felt like such a weird thing to like get so angry about. And it really like took off, and all these people were talking about like whether or not that's something appropriate and if you can appreciate it the right way. And it's just, let people listen to shit the way they want to listen to it. As long as they're not playing it out loud on a speaker on the subway and being super rude, I don't care. Go ahead. All this to say, Jessica, watch that shit at extra speed if you feel like it. I'm not going to do that because I want to keep the integrity of the original for my work, because that's a different situation. But if you're just like, oh yeah, I know the storyline, let's just get it done, I can understand that. Seraphim says, the pre-Eneru Skypeans never really explored the island, just chilled out in the god realm above it and grabbed earth from it when they needed. The Shandorians were never able to explore the island due to always fighting with the Skypeans when they came here. Oh, okay. I didn't really like get the impression that the Shandorians were forced to stay where they were, but I will accept that. That's fine. Nami has some issues with the idea of putting a value on a human life for good reason. Yeah, that's true. Florian says, I think Luffy also wants to stop them from diving to find the city of gold. He was getting sick from all the going underwater, so it has to happen as fast as possible, aka right now. Okay. I mean, okay. I accept it. How's that? I feel like it feels a little bit weak, but also it's at least an explanation, and that really is all it needs. We just need a little something that we can just kind of go, all right, I hand wave this with this. And this is the exact sort of show that a hand wave is like totally adequate. That's fine. So thank you guys for those perspectives. Appreciate it. So I will say, though, despite the fact that I was like, can't anybody just argue with Luffy? I was sort of touched at Robin's response, because she really is like, that guy, he is crazy. And she's so affectionate with it. And it's just one of those moments of me having, I am always a sucker for the whole cold exterior and then the betrayal of a real piece of emotion all of a sudden that like cracks through. And I mean, it's such a cliche, but as somebody who like craves the approval of authority figures, I fully acknowledge that's probably where that comes from. I'm a sucker for it because in real life I crave it. If I can get this stoic authority figure for her facade to break for just a moment so that I know that she just is so proud of me. Does it get better than that? Absolutely fucking not. I mean, McGonagall offering Harry what was it? A ginger snap? But it was like something else. Ginger nut. Epitome of the book. Yeah, he beats Voldemort, I guess. But like, she gave him a cookie. Seraphim. That plus patience is something Luffy is likely to think of is a type of meat. I acknowledge that point. I just wanted anybody to argue about it. That's really all it is, you know? Because they all seem to like know the spirit behind what he's doing right away. And it just seemed too good to be true that absolutely everybody was like, that's a great idea. Good for him. But it's okay. So at this point, Eneru looks down and he sees that Luffy is still on his way up the fucking beanstalk. And even Eneru is like, wow, he really made it quite a long way considering that he's got like 2,000 pounds of gold attached to his arm. I'm kind of impressed, to be honest. And he decides that get rid of Luffy, he is going to break the top off of the beanstalk. So the beanstalk begins to plummet to earth, while our friend who is above, or our friends who are below, do not know that their friend who is above is heading right down towards them. Because they're trying, they're in the midst of discussion. They're a bit distracted. And thankfully, Usopp looks up just in time and tells everybody to get away from the vine because something's coming. It's a very dramatic moment, but I was so sure Luffy was still going to be attached to it, and that when they all stood up, it would at least be like, oh, Luffy, there you are, because he was still holding on to it initially. But what actually winds up being the focus here is that Viper he lands in such a way that the injury to his arm, it's like getting worse. He's kind of on his last legs, and that makes it sound like he's about to die, but that's definitely not happening. There's a sort of suggestion that he sacrifices himself, but I don't believe that he is dead. He may be, and if so, but I just don't think so. So, yeah, he begins to talk about the bell Kalgara sought. That's what our true goal is. And then we go back to Luffy. And it turns out he was able to grab something on his fall just fast enough. And now he is bouncing in place. And so what he does is he uses the force of that bouncing and the retracting to basically launch himself upward like a stone from a slingshot. He calls it Gum Gum Yo-Yo, which I say slingshot is more appropriate, but it's certainly within the realm. That's fair. And he gets back up, and this is when Nami comes up behind him and plows into him. And she does it and lands on him and then says, Luffy, I caught up to you. There's no apology. And he's not mad. This is the part I love. When a character acts in a way that feels like no human would do that. And then it's met with a response that feels equally inhuman. If Nami had run over Zoro, very different scene. All of this would go really differently. But instead, Luffy just turns over and goes, hey, what are you doing here? I thought I had to save you. What's up? Glad to see ya. He's just very glad that she didn't need rescuing after all. And yeah, she says, I didn't need rescuing. I've been safe this whole time. And he says, were you? Great. Again, can you imagine if Zoro had been going through all this thinking that he's rescuing Nami, and then it turns out she's been safe for the past 4 hours? He would not say, that's great. That would not be the response you get from Zoro. So anyway, then they begin to hear something. And Nami turns around and says, what's that? The thunderclouds are changing shape. And we get to see this weird cloud. It's sphere-shaped. And it's lowering over Sky Island and blotting out the sun. There's a lot of clouds anyway. But this is considered, what I'm imagining is that as it's a sphere, it's way denser. And so it blocks out probably a great deal more sun than just one layer of cloud would. And it's beginning to penetrate that thick cloud layer over the top of everything. And Nami says, that's a thundercloud. It's spherical and it's packed with electricity. It's like a bomb, basically. And I am going to assume that this is something that she's able to sort of sense because of her skills as a navigator. And there's a connection to the weather for her because of that I've noticed with the show, that she tends to be knowledgeable about that sort of thing. I mean, that's also part of the theming behind the weapon that Usopp made for her. And I don't think that I ever really appreciated that that was the link there. I kind of felt like weather was just the theme he chose for this weapon, and not necessarily that that was Nami's theme. But the more I think about it, that is kind of what she specializes in, is knowing what's going on with the weather and recognizing weather phenomena, because you would have to. So, yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge, because it's not really like a superpower, you know, it's her speciality. So we watch this thing descend onto Angel Island. I had thought, guys, that Angel Island was destroyed last episode. Because that it looks like it's descending over Angel Island specifically. But I thought last episode there was that huge attack that Eneru does that's very pointed, and that we see the White Beret say, it's a good thing we got as many people off as we did. If she didn't tell us, we would have lost them all. Is this, like, I'm just a little bit puzzled, because I thought we had done this already, and then it's being done in this, like, much more dramatic way, which this makes more sense to me, that the destruction of that island would be much more of a centerpiece and a set piece like this. But I thought that's what happened last episode, and now I'm starting to be like, maybe that wasn't it. Seraphim says, last episode he just blasted away a large chunk of the island. This time it's taking out the whole thing. Okay. I guess that they don't really like back up and show that a piece is missing. So the way that they have this explosion of light, and then the White Beret basically saying, thank God she told us in time, as they're running away, it seemed like he was running away from a thing that was no longer there. Like he's running away from the blast site. But if it was just a part that got broken off, still makes sense he would react that way. I just really expected there to be nobody left. So, yeah. This, of course, Usopp is watching this and is really like, what the fuck? And we get a lot of stretched out scenes of every single person's face in Skypiea at all, and their reaction to this cloud lowering. It just, goes from one to another, and the people who are still on the island. And then, of course, we go to Eneru. Now you will learn the heavens are mine. With a maxim and my power, I can accomplish such acts of God. I am still really curious whether or not... So, guys, remind me, did Eneru eat a fruit? He did, right? Or did he not? I'm trying to remember how that went. And has anybody brought up with him? Not that I think this will work. Just out of curiosity. I want to see what he would say. I don't remember if Nami says something to him about, like, why do you want to destroy all these people? You are also from the sky and therefore unnatural. Has anybody, like, posited that, and have we heard an argument from him? Because I don't feel like I remember it. But he clearly sets himself apart. It is not new to be part of a community and yet to claim that the community itself is unnatural and fucked up. There are a lot of self-loathing people who are like that. But it's just funny to me that he's clearly like, except for me though. And that's just the asterisk that you have to take for granted in his whole attitude. Seraphim says it's the difference between dropping a huge bomb on New York City and just outright sinking the entire island it's on. Gotcha. Florian says that's a One Piece thing with the faces, I mean. Yeah. It's really interesting because, guys, I have never been very much into animated series. As a kid, and that was kind of it. And it ended right around when I was probably like 9 or 10 years old. and I grew out of that. And then I just never was interested further in like cartoons for adults or anything. There's plenty of animated series for adults out there that are really good. And I never watched them. The Simpsons completely passed me by. So I am not somebody who has grown up with animation in my face, and I haven't really grown to appreciate the changes in animation over time or the differences in styles of animation. And it's really been since I've started covering this. I covered Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I did that with Owen. And those episodes, a lot of the time he brought up the quality of animation from one episode versus another, because they would spend a lot of money on like set pieces for a finale or a mid-season, and then the next episode would look like absolute garbage because they had spent all of their animation money. And I never really even knew that that was a thing, because I don't know how it works. I've never had to think about it before. Once you explain, well, yeah, it takes a lot more to draw these intricate figures or these intricate backgrounds and also have like effects happening over them, then I'm like, oh, obviously it's like CGI. It's going to be more expensive the more you want to do. But I never thought about it in those terms at all. And it's been fascinating. Between starting Avatar and having Owen bring that to my attention in a way that I never had. If I were covering Avatar alone, I don't think I would have noticed. Owen is into enough animated and comic books, especially, or a whole thing with that, that he notices that stuff. So it started there, and then covering this, and then covering Full Metal Alchemist, which is also anime, but just a really different kind. And then Candace commissioned me to watch a couple movies. I can't remember the director's name. Your Name is the one that I will recommend because it's absolutely stunning. And I watched it with Owen like 2 weekends ago, and we were both sobbing by the end. But it's really interesting now that I am getting to know this stuff better, to be able to zero in on, oh yeah, we're panning by a bunch of people who are actually the previous image, and it's just been flipped to make them look like different people. Or we are going to use the same footage of him running down the center, like, road of this town. We're going to reuse that same footage over and over again because we just need people to know he's running through town, and we don't need it to be different every time. And I just think it's really interesting, especially when it's the stuff about like them staring in shock and like only their mouths are moving, or like the lines around their eyes are moving to indicate that we're not frozen. It's just, you know, that they have stopped dead, versus a fully drawn image that they fool you into feeling is animated because they're just pulling the camera across the still image. And I find it really compelling how effective it can be, and then the moments when that doesn't work, because it works most of the time. And then every now and then you stop and you're like, wait, are those the same guys? And, you know, even when you have those moments, it's still probably worth it to them money-wise. You know, they're like, yeah, people know this is a cartoon. They'll be fine. But I really do find it interesting to learn about, especially as somebody who had been really into visual art and had almost gone down a few different paths that would have been, you know, like dealing with this kind of trying to be economic with it. I find it really, really interesting to see the difference in the ways that shows have to handle it. Anyway, all that to say, the padding of them going from like character to character is really extreme in this show. And it still has never gotten as bad as it did with, what was the villain with Sanji's whole arc when he turns up? That was the worst one for that so far, I think. Ever since then, we've had plenty of it happening, but it doesn't feel like it's half the episode. Let's see. Rumble Fruit. Thank you, Seraphim. Eneru has a straight up god complex. That's why he is a god in the story. Weathering with You. That's the other of the two movies. That, Weathering with You, I did not like as much. It was interesting, but Your Name truly was remarkable. This is half money saving by cutting out the amount of animation, half just trying to pad out the episodes to reduce the amount of full-on filler episodes needed to avoid catching up to the manga. Yeah, it's such a shame about the filler episode issue, because I like a filler episode doesn't have to be an inherently bad thing. You guys know that I really enjoyed the set of filler episodes that you guys were like, well, this doesn't have anything to do with the main story, so we really don't need to commission it. And I was like, well, all right, well, I'll watch them on my own. And no, they don't have anything to do with the main story, but they're super fun anyway. And it's just too bad that they tend to feel so standing in place. And part of that is, in order to have like a filler arc, you need to introduce another cast of characters, because you can't have those with the main group because that affects things. So it's hard to make viewers care about a new group of people really, really quickly. But I don't know. It's just too bad, because I feel like they're doing a disservice to the material by trying so hard to avoid regular filler episodes that they turn the actual plot into a filler in a way, Anyway, so Dong Krieg, oh my God, thank you, Florian. Yeah, that for me is truly the nadir of the show so far. I don't know how many people feel that way. And it's really too bad that that's when Sanji gets introduced to everything, because he's delightful and I really want, he deserved better, right? But yeah, I feel like that was a real low point so far. So we go to everybody who are on the ships, escaping, observing this thing lowering. We even have the Shandorans watching, and it begins to get so low that it looks like it's going to crush the island. And it's literally getting pierced by buildings and stuff. And that's sort of the moment when Eneru launches, is as soon as it's touching the buildings. And guys, it's not really animated this way, but I want to just go back and screenshot this, or I'll screen share with you. I think it's just supposed to be a crooked smile, but it looks for all the world to me like Eneru is watching and biting his lip, as he's about to, launch his little attack. Hear how dismissive I'm being. And it's not... It just gives almost a vibe of somebody who is turned on. And honestly, that would fit, because Eneru's a real sicko. So if he were just yeah, I'm about to electrocute you so hard, I wouldn't even really be that mad, because that just seems like the way he would be. But he's just got this look on his face, yeah, it's leering, and it felt very inappropriate to me. That's all I'm saying. So I am sorry to those of you who are listening to this and not in the crowdcast, so you aren't seeing the animation that I was just sharing and you're not getting the full picture, but I promise I'm right. So yeah, it finally drops, and then we get the signature all black and white animation to, signal that there is all the colors being washed out of everything because the light is so bright. It was very interesting, actually, because I'm also covering, like I said, Full Metal Alchemist, and that's coming up after this one. And they also had some bright white light in Full Metal Alchemist this episode. And seeing the ways that they do it the same and do it different another aspect of this that I find really interesting. So it's this huge explosion of light, and then all the smoke clears and it's just not there anymore. And everybody is like, what the fuck? And there's not there anymore in the sense that there's a literal hole where it used to be, a crater in the ground. And it is, it sucks. I mean, the whole idea of watching the place that you were living blow up is such a weird concept to me, because like, I'm not attached to where I live in the sense that I feel like it would be a real emotional upheaval, but I would just take it very personally. Like, that's the Starbucks that I go to every weekend. I can't believe that they blew that up. That's my Starbucks. And that's as close as I can come, because I don't really care about the land here. But of course, there's also people who got hurt. I'm just factoring in, what if it was fully evacuated first? So at this point, Eneru is looking down on that big hole in the sky and is like, what a glorious sight. That's what the sky should look like. And meanwhile, our friends on the ground, they are aware some shit just happened, but they don't understand exactly. And then we have Gonfall, who knows this place well enough and is like, oh my God, the entire island is fucking gone. Holy shit. And he just collapses crying and keeps repeating, how can you be this cruel? How could you do this? And he does a really good, the animation of him in this like moment of complete despair was very well done. We cut for a moment to Conus, who is hanging around with her little fox, and she's getting scared, but she is still determined to wait for them all. And this is when we have the moment with Nami trying to tell Luffy, everybody is heading back to the ship. You don't need to rescue me. We can get out of here. And Luffy says, I have unfinished business. And she's like, are you trying to get back at him? What do you have to do? And he says, I want to get to the Golden Bell. And she thinks he means just for the sake of it. And then he explains, no, I gotta ring it. And obviously she eventually like agrees and decides to help him. But I stand by, somebody needs to tell Luffy no every now and then. And in a real way, not in a no, don't eat the rest of the pork buns kind of way. So yeah, he is absolutely 100% determined to do this. And this episode basically ends with everybody on the ground, like circled up and talking about the history, and guessing what Luffy probably would want to do based on a flashback that Zoro has with Chopper, who we haven't seen. Like, Chopper's still not back on his feet yet. And I kind of resent that Chopper has been taken out of the equation. I'm just guessing the voice actor needed a break, but I just don't see that Chopper had to be so completely sidelined. I mean, we're in the midst of an entire island being completely obliterated, and Chopper is still not back? Like, what's up? So, yeah. They think back to what Luffy had said at one point about how he would really want to ring the bell. And they're going, oh, okay, that's what it is he's up to. And Zoro says, even if Nami tries to bring him back, he won't come. Because he's the same thing that Eneru is. Or no, he's after the same thing. Sorry, how dare I. So we go to Luffy positioned on the top of what's left of the beanstalk. and he keeps trying to get onto the ship, and the fact that he has this huge weight tied to his hand is making it pretty difficult. But he's getting a lot closer than Eneru thinks he should be able to. And he's like holding on to the edge at one point. Eneru just literally kicks his hand off, and Luffy goes plummeting back down to Nami. And I didn't think that he was going to get fucking straight up kicked off. I thought Luffy was going to pull something out, and he doesn't. He just goes flying. And that's it. And Nami rightfully is like, I told you not to. I don't know if you remember, but a few minutes ago, I was saying that you shouldn't do this. And I think you will find current evidence supports my former position, which remains my current position. So, anyway, the episode pretty much wraps with Eneru going nuts with his electric attacks, and Luffy straight up telling him that he's not going to get away with this. And then we go on to the next episode. So, again, a lot of stills of everybody looking at where the gate used to be to get in and out, and wondering where they're going to go, because they're all on ships. They're like, this guy says, we have to escape to the blue sea via, I can't remember the name of it. And he said, it's like, I think the way that our friends figured out they could have come, and they wound up having taken the long way in to Skypiea, and it didn't need the knock upstream if they went this other way. So I think that this is sort of like the back exit. Blue Sea via Cloud End. Is that right, guys? Do you remember what I'm talking about? I can't remember if it was Gonfall or Pagaya. I think it was Gonfall who tells them about, like, oh, did you come this way? And Nami is like, did we come what way now? I didn't know that was a thing. No, we did not. But they are all planning to, like, drop down to the Blue Sea. So then somebody brings up, there's a lot of people, though, that are still here. And he's like straight up busting up the roads that we need to get home. What are we supposed to do if we can't even get to the road? And we see them beginning to just like go flying as Eneru attacks all of the like sea around them. We see very few like direct hits on the ship. He's just kind of fucking with the general area. And I'm not sure if that's because he is toying with them, if he is just not being particularly accurate. I don't know. But we have a moment where we see the old lady who had been the one who tracked who was coming in and out, pick up the camera and like take a photo of the hole in the sky above their heads. And I have got to say, that old lady would have been a really great, like, a mascot, I guess, for Instagram. I feel like they could have done something with that. Not that they need any sort of ad campaign, but I really like want a headcanon that she is the owner of Instagram, like the real, genuine, behind the scenes owner. So, anyway. Luffy is continuing to try and get onto Eneru's ship. Eneru keeps on, like, mocking the fact, as long as you can't get up here, you can't do jack shit. And he continues hitting everything below him over and over again, delighting in his power. He keeps casting these wild shadows and making these, like, funnel clouds. And so he's having a great time. And look, I can't lie. It probably is super, super fun. So this is when this giant leaf falls down. And it turns out that they have got a plan that they're sending to their friends down below, who they know are there. And they figure out that I'm trying to remember exactly how this is phrased, because somebody, of course it's Usopp, is like, I can't believe we're going to do that. Cut down this huge vine so it falls towards the west. So I guess what they're hoping is that the vine will drop them onto Eneru's ship if it falls the correct way. Usopp does not want to do it. And I guess it's because he thinks that it might fall on them, or that it's going to take too much time and they should get out of there. I'm not totally clear on what he's so scared of, but he keeps being really surprised that they're going to do it. And I wanted him to at least explain what he is so freaked out about. And look, like I said, it's not like there aren't reasons to be like, that's a bad idea. There are, but he doesn't actually cite any of them, and just seems overall sort of out of proportion freaked out at the fact that they're agreeing to this crazy plan, which on the surface does not seem that crazy. So of course we have to have the obligatory, villain monologuing about the endless birth. The time has come and I almost hate to go. I am going to miss toying with these people's lives. And our friends on the ground, they're looking up and they are seeing another huge sphere begin to drop down. And they're like, oh shit, he's going hard on this one. There is no way we get out of this alive. And he begins to pull it downwards while singing, "Goodbye, Skypiea, sir." So he reached the bell, and Nami basically predicts, okay, yeah, he's got the bell. So he doesn't need this land anymore. Now that he's gotten to it, that's game over. We don't need to be here anymore. And the moment when Eneru finds the bell, I didn't pay this the service it deserved. Eneru says that this is like the perfect object to honor him as a god. And there is just something about needing an object that is worthy of your greatness that I want so badly to embody. Just being like, ah, yes, these pants are suitable for someone of my standing. And then if you get a pair of pants that don't fit, maybe you're feeling insecure about your weight or just how you look, you don't say these pants are too small, or you say that these pants are unworthy of resting upon the skin of someone like you who deserves so much better, because you just do. I really want to internalize this, is what I'm saying. So if we can all start sort of referring to ourselves as if we are at the height of gods, I think that it would be great for a lot of our mental health. And he finds this and then is thinking about the pointless battles that they had fought for so many years, the Shandorans, and the way that this bell signifies that only a drop of their empire is left behind after everything. Gets a little bit philosophical there for a minute. So he, like I said, pulls down this huge cloud, and everybody is truly beginning to panic. This is when Zoro is going, okay, I'm going to cut that fucking thing down. We just got to do something. We don't have the time to get away. And he goes to the beanstalk, and gives it a huge slice, and it only goes halfway through, which is really something. Apparently, it's being implied that it's not made of like normal beanstalk material, which one would assume because they're riding, wave riders and shit over it. But it is really surprising that we had a guy leap through the air and cut a giant snake across the throat, and he can't cut through this beanstalk. I'm just saying, Zoro, it's kind of sad and pathetic, and you should be really embarrassed. So this is when we have the revelation from Robin. Oh, I think I know what Luffy's up to. And she talks about Noland, but without saying his name. And all of a sudden, Viper is like, wait a second. What was your ancestor's name? And he's all teary-eyed because, like, it's a connection. I won't even go so far because, like, the temptation is to say he's finding out it's real. And that's not it, because that makes it sound like he thought it was only a story, and he didn't. He knew that this was a history, not just a story. But it's just the, like, grand circle, finally, of being able to wrap up this mystery of these men who never saw each other again and understand what occurred with that and getting closure on that. That's really, really moving to him. And it's part of why he decides that he's going to, like, take this last desperate stand. And he has one more of those dials left that were pretty badly fucking up his arm. And he has decided that he is going to go ahead and use that to try and break the beanpole off the rest of the way. And I should mention, too, Robin is a history buff. When she realizes that he knows who Noland is, it's a really great little moment. So he's looking up and thanking Calgara and saying, like, it's a miracle that we have, found relations to this guy and are getting to learn the rest of his story. And we go back in time a little bit to Nola, who is... It's Nola, like, in the city, sitting there thinking back to following along with the Shandoran warriors and watching them ring the bell. Guys, why was this so emotional? Because there was something about this little snake getting nostalgic that got to me so bad. Truly. It's like little face when it's excited to be following them and like, yeah, let's go ring the bell. Because he's like an adolescent snake. Maybe not even that old. He's just got a real like baby face. I don't know. It was like so adorable. And we see the snake then in present time shoving its head against the beanstalk and trying to help to knock it down. And basically, the snake is on their side all of a sudden. When it just bashes its head into that beanstalk, after this really sweet moment where it's remembering what it was like as a kid, when it just bashes its head into it, I have to confess, I did not see immediately what it was trying to do, and I thought it was a really weird cut. I was like, wait, are we going from this, like, extremely emotional moment to just, like, a pratfall? And then I put it together, but it took a second. Let's see. Florian, not all of us siding with the villain. I'm here for the Zoro shade. Seraphim says, because Oda knows how to hit you in the feels when he wants to. Yeah, there's something about, like, I think it's almost the same as what I was saying before, when somebody who is normally very stoic shows emotion. I mean, this snake has seemed to just be kind of like a vicious creature. And now all of a sudden it's like getting really sweet, and I can't handle it. I wasn't ready. So, yeah, we have Viper climb up, and he manages to get the rest of it to start coming down. Usopp is running in front of it in one of those moments where I'm just like, it's like when Rickon was trying to run away from the bastard of Bolton in Game of Thrones, and he's running in a straight line, and I'm like, just swerve, man. Just do a little bit of a zigzag. Get out of its direct path that it's about to come down on. So Nami and Luffy, meanwhile, she has agreed to help him get up to the top by using her Wave Rider and driving, because he's very bad at it. And the Wave Rider, with his hand that's covered in gold, it is not coping well with that at all. He tries it and it just plummets. So she's going to drive, and she has to open the throttle to a point that she never has before. Meanwhile, she is dragging his big golden hand behind them as they go up. And Usopp from the ground is watching this and yells up, "Go! Everything depends on you two." And I cannot emphasize enough how little that would help if I were them. I don't need anybody reminding me of the drama of the moment and what's at stake. I am already freaking out, okay? Stop it. You don't need to be putting the pressure on me like that. Anyway, so Eneru watches them from above and is just like, well, I guess I'm going to have to deal with you fucking guys again. And he sends all of this lightning down the sides of the beanstalk. And Luffy says, "You're missing us. You're a bad shot." He just has to poke and prod, man. This is not the time to be doing this, Luffy. Why? What do you... miss me? Sir, it's electricity. Don't do that. So then Eneru is like, all right, I'm such a bad shot. How about this then? And he begins to shoot at the clouds that the stalk is coming out of, and essentially toppling it over from the base, which, if you can do it, that's a good plan. And this is what leads to, like, these ruins getting completely desecrated and demolished. I don't know how much of them survive this. I figured none, and the bell is probably going to be the only thing. And I have to say, the Shandorans are really getting the shit end of all of this, because they never found it. It was their heritage. They had the whole area taken from them, and then it gets destroyed by this asshole. So that once they're actually found, it's not even an hour before they are completely obliterated. I would be livid. I would be so mad. Ugh. It's always the native peoples that wind up getting the shit end of the stick. So, and anyway, that's how the episode ends, is them, like, heading up toward the top while trying to beat Eneru, sinking the vine from the bottom. And it's in the midst of toppling, and then it's suddenly the end. Which, a very dramatic moment. Good choice, I say. Let's see. Sorry. No. Same. I thought I saw a new comment, but I was wrong. So, anyway, yeah. I made an hour of it. Look at that. But it felt like it moved very slowly. And I'm really curious, like, I'm assuming that what they're going to do is, as the beanstalk drops, they are going to use it as a ramp and go off of it onto Eneru's ship. I'm assuming. And I'm trying to think how Luffy can, like, succeed in killing Eneru. The thing that I could see Luffy doing is he is essentially a giant wrecking ball. So if they go and off the edge of a ramp and he just dangles his hand, that ball of gold will tear that shit up, I would think. And it might be the easiest to just destroy that ship. Eneru can fly, so that doesn't really do anything about him, though. So, I don't know. I don't have any solutions here other than, like, basically wrapping Eneru in Luffy completely to the point that he's, like, completely dampened by rubber. And that's just a real temporary solution, if you ask me. So Seraphim says, next one will be a blast. Too bad I'll be at work for it. Womp, womp. You should take the day off, Seraphim. And Florian says, what do you think is on the poneglyph? Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. The poneglyph's attached to the bell? Is that right? I don't know. There's a lot of little things. Like, I'm thinking about how the way that they made their escape from Captain Smoker's island and that weird figure that turned up, and then they have the one that repairs their ship overnight in this strange fashion. And I don't know if there's a connection between those, but there's a lot of sort of ongoing small mysteries that I really don't even know what to make of them. So I don't know. The poneglyph, okay, it is on the bell, so they have a copy of it. Because I was about to be like, that's just destroyed. But no. I don't know. I guess we'll see. All right, everybody. Well, until next time, toodaloo, motherfuckers.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.